Like
the fact
what?
is, I love being here. I could be an actor if I wanted. I could be a host.
Made to
I love
DVD
being in the
movies?
WWE. Absolutely, I could
How
go
many
do movies.
movies have you done?
I don't do
So
movies
you
because
make
I don't
fun
want to
of
be an
him for-
actor.
Oh
You want
my!
to be a wrestler, but you can't because of your head. It's okay. It's all
Okay,
right.
can we bring?
Fine.
I can't, or they won't let me.
You
we'll
said
see in a year and a
earlier-
half and see what happens.
As if they don't have too much on their plate. The Kings of Combat Sports Podcast, John and Wade. They'll talk about the things they did that day. They'll analyze the work of Vince and Triple H. Review-A-Smackdown. Review-A-Smackdown. Smackdown. Review-A-Smackdown. Smackdown. Review-A-Smackdown. Smackdown. Review-A-Smackdown.
Welcome to Review-A-Smackdown. I'm John Pollock, along with the ting that runs this thing. Way.
That's not bad.
Yeah. Took us a while. How are you?
Doing all right. Yeah. Thanks, man. Thanks
Yeah.
for asking. How are you? I feel like I never asked.
I'm fine.
All right.
Are you excited to chat about our Tuesday night program? What did you watch on Tuesday night?
I watched everything. Yeah.
I had this strange reaction to 205 Live going in after those matches on Sunday and Monday and the angle with Aries. It was the first time I was actually looking forward to 205 Live. Like, usually, I won't lie, it's the third component of the hourly viewings I have to do on Tuesday night.
Yep.
And to be honest, it's a chore watching 205 Live. I feel if we weren't talking about it, I wouldn't watch it, at least not till later in the week. But I was looking forward to this 205 Live. I was like, there's some momentum to this show. And
Because of the quality of the matches.
the quality of the matches, and you also have like a central figure now in Austin Aries that can complement Neville. And that does feel like it's going to be a singles match at WrestleMania. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, the 2 hours, or the two shows this week of Raw and SmackDown, I was going through this today, just writing through the daily update. Like, you essentially have the whole WrestleMania card known at this point. I would say
4 weeks out, I'd say that's about a good enough time.
I think it's a good assumption Braun Strowman's in the Battle Royal, we would assume. Finn Balor's a question mark, and I guess Big Show and Shaq are question marks. But other than that, you've got maybe an addition of a cruiserweight multi-man match, American Alpha and the Usos. But other than that, like, all the angles have been shot. You know where they're going. And I'd say in terms of building the card, this was a pretty productive week of television for the company.
Sure.
One other thing I wanted to provide an update, because we were discussing this on Review-A-Raw about the four-way everyone assumed was going to be happening at WrestleMania and thinking Nia Jax would be in there. When the card was first put together, Nia Jax was never in the plans to be in that match. This was always the plan of a three-way. So, and that feels like that's what it's going to be. I mean, they could always change their mind and add Nia, but that would be a change from what they originally put together. So Nia was not figured in to this match, and
So don't expect Nia.
I wouldn't, no, unless they have a change of thought. But as you see this card, I mean, they really have not changed their minds on much. I mean, I think they adjusted some stuff with the women's situation on SmackDown, and yeah, we'll get into that.
Sure. Yeah, we will.
With the Blissertation.
Uh-huh.
A new high on terms of addresses towards WrestleMania, which clearly they were watching Randy Orton's 2009 address, and they were like, we could do better than this. A Blissertation.
Yeah, we can make a pun out of
Yes.
it.
The show started off with a recap, or should I say this was a 5-minute recap to start the show of the Wyatt Orton angle. 5 minutes.
Well, it was useful for me. I didn't watch the show last week.
Oh, that's right. You didn't.
Yeah.
Did you?
I did try to watch it in the background while I was in Vegas doing some other shit, but like I couldn't pay full attention to it, and of course I listened to reviews. So
Of course. How did Braden do?
I mean Braden. Everybody's getting on Braden, but like that's just his thoughts, you know. Like every individual has their own opinion on the show, and I'm sure somewhere out there Braden's sentiment is echoed by many other viewers of that show. So and that's again, like when you're listening to these reviews, it's only one person's opinion. Don't take my opinion or John's opinion or anyone else's opinion as, you know, the only opinion that there is. Your opinion is just as valuable, and so is Braden's.
What did you think of the angle last week? That was one that has been, I guess, debated by some, but I have not sensed the
I liked it.
the anger that I figured there would be. I mean, there's some that hated it, but I think that's the minority. I mean, I said last week I didn't really dislike it all that much, and I think that especially over the last year or two, I think people are more accustomed to these out there kind of angles. And to be honest, I thought that this got everything in place. Of course, if you are very much of suspending your disbelief, this was a tougher one to swallow, but I thought you got to where your destination was. If you have been following the story, I think this is a story that has played itself out of Orton infiltrating this group, gaining their trust, and then turning on the group, which is what they did. And it was a pretty wild angle last week involving arson.
I thought it was an appropriate angle given the storyline and given the characters. You know, I feel like because it's Bray Wyatt, because it's Randy Orton involved in the Bray Wyatt storyline, you need something this ridiculous. I mean, we're talking about people that teleport. We're talking about people that vanish into vapor. You know, that's the character.
The Vapor, Randy Orton.
The Vapor. Yes, and so like something like burning down dude shit, I found just totally appropriate.
Now, did you view this as a babyface act by Randy Orton?
Yeah.
Burning down this
maybe he went too far, and I feel like Bray did such a great job of selling the death of Sister Abigail, or the
redeath?
The further death of Sister Abigail that you kind of started to feel sympathy
I had
for
sympathy for Bray Wyatt.
Because he did such a great job of looking destroyed.
How did you read that one line that we were talking about last week? The last time you heard Sister Abigail scream was her dying breath. Did you take that to mean that Bray Wyatt was simply at her side, or that Bray was responsible for Sister Abigail's death? Because that puts Bray Wyatt as the ultimate villain if he has killed his sister.
I don't think we'll know. I wonder if they even know the full backstory of Sister Abigail at this point, nor do I wonder if they'll ever reveal it. It just may be one of those things.
As we have this conversation, I realize how some people just can't possibly stomach this angler.
But I mean, what the fuck was The Undertaker and Kane? Like, it's just as ridiculous.
There's levels. I mean, there's a length that you can go, and once you cross that line, it's kind of people are divorced from it. But this one was right at the limit for a lot.
In pro wrestling, what is that line really? Come on, like in all of wrestling history.
The line, to me, you brought it up perfectly. The line was kind of where they would go with The Undertaker versus where they would go with Kane. Kane was always the wackier, wilder angles that you always felt was like The Undertaker was a great editor of the ideas he would be willing to go to, and the crazy ones would be Kane's territory.
Right. Kane got the Katie Vicks. The Undertaker had, things that are a bit more cooler, a bit more palatable. I thought this was one of the cooler ones, I didn't mind it. I think if there's something to be said about like the sympathy you probably felt for Bray Wyatt, perhaps it's because it's been so long since Bray did Randy wrong. You know what I mean? The thing that kind of initiated this entire heel turn. So you don't really fully remember why Randy is upset at Bray or what Bray did to Randy in the past to warrant this. And I'm having trouble remembering, too, what exactly happened.
I have no clue. Until you brought this up, I have no idea why Randy was wrong.
Well, they were feuding, obviously, and then
they were feuding.
Randy decided to join him.
Yes. Please help us out there.
Okay.
What was so harmful to him. By the way, on a personal note, you sound a lot better today.
Oh, thank you.
doing?
I didn't this morning. Trust me.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
I was fully prepared on Monday to do a full rundown of the New Japan show, and
I'm sorry.
My heart was out for you, Wai. I was there's no way I can make this man sit here any longer. So
I wouldn't have had much to add anyway. So
Wai, you were a trooper on Monday getting through.
Please. Anyway, so getting back to SmackDown, I want to just clarify this Randy Orton thing.
Okay.
So he had this plan the entire time that he was going to infiltrate the Wyatt family, break up Bray and Luke, and then somehow get access to Bray's shed.
There's a lot of assumptions you have to make in this, but that's a logical story here that you would assume. He joined the group and then led to, he was the one that caused the conflict with Luke Harper, where Luke turns on Bray.
Yeah.
And then at the end, he turns on Bray.
Yeah. The fact that Bray Wyatt won the title was just a bonus, right? He probably didn't expect that, did he?
Yeah, I guess not. You couldn't have really controlled that.
Right. So my question is, why did he give up his Royal Rumble title shot?
Okay, again, and I'm going out on a limb here. My belief would be that that was the ultimate sign of having Bray's trust. You had gotten him to this level now.
Yeah.
That you had his trust. And now he was at his most vulnerable because he completely believed in you. So maybe by that, there was a private conversation between Randy and Bray where he said, you know what, Randy? He said, remember, okay, this I don't think is me just assuming here. This was said multiple times after that Rumble title shot was given up by Randy. Bray continually said, you now have the keys to the kingdom, which I think you can tie in to he got access to this compound that is Bray's sanctuary. And now he has gotten into his safe place. I don't think that is me just jumping to conclusions. That was repeatedly said. He had the keys to the kingdom.
So he entered himself into the Royal Rumble, won the Royal Rumble so that he could exchange his title shot for the keys to Bray Wyatt's shed.
Well, remember, he never gave up the title shot until Bray won the title, sensing that he still had that final bit of Bray's trust that he had to gain before he fucked him.
So what if first of all,
I'm enjoying this storyline even more over the last 5 minutes.
Wait a second. What if Bray didn't win the title? Okay, so
then Randy still has a title shot,
right.
And he's got the ultimate
shot,
plan of Bray is his ultimate plan.
But he'll never get the keys. He'll never have anything to exchange in order to get the keys.
Maybe his plan could have been win the title and hand it over to Bray.
That's stupid.
Well, that would have been.
That's worse.
Well, that didn't happen, though.
What if
you can't fault them for what didn't happen?
What if he didn't win the Royal Rumble? Then what? Then he'd be fucked. Bray would be champion, and then Randy would have nothing. He'd just be his subordinate, wouldn't have any keys to the shack.
The kingdom way.
A lot of things could have gone wrong here, Randy. A lot of things worked out for you.
Calculated risk.
He really scored.
Yeah, he's the Viper. He was, it
worked out perfectly.
Risk assessment. He came out glowingly. Yeah. So we got our 5-minute recap, which you and I just did. We just hit it out of the park with a better recap.
We did it in 15 minutes.
This guy didn't even see the angle last week. Shane McMahon starts the show and brings out Daniel Bryan, and they have yet to find out who will face Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania. They've been arguing all week. Bryan believes that Randy Orton should get the shot because of the history of the Royal Rumble winner getting the title shot, while Shane believes that AJ Styles should. And
it's interesting that they paired Shane on the side of AJ here.
Yeah, and we'll get into that part later. I, at first, was of the belief that why do that? I think it was actually the smart way to do it. It gives Shane... It makes him the babyface in this.
Yes.
If that's the direction you want. It's like the audience is like, hey, they're pointing that exact out. This guy had your back, you asshole. So if you want Shane in that babyface role, this way may have been better rather than propelling AJ's argument. It's like the audience would have the side of AJ. Like, yeah, this guy was out to get you. So Bryan says how Orton executed one of the most methodical plans in the WWE and set our WrestleMania plans ablaze. And they replay the angle. After our 5-minute recap, we got another recap of the angle and the compound burning. They were not going to let any of this expensive shoot go to waste.
They had to buy an actual shack and
go on location.
But those worms, those poor worms.
Oh, boy.
The lives of those worms were
died.
Yeah.
Unfortunate. So he says that they don't agree, but they're going to settle it in the ring tonight with a match between Orton and AJ Styles, which was promoted as the biggest main event in SmackDown history, both before and after. That's a big risk, promoting something, and then after the fact, you confirm it as the biggest main event in SmackDown history. I don't know if this was the biggest one in SmackDown history, but anyway.
What would you actually say it was? The 5th? No, not even. Maybe. The 20th, maybe?
If I had to think off the top of my head.
Yeah, give it an actual number.
Of the biggest, the SmackDown main events that come to mind for me, I remember.
Okay, I know there's way too many.
Oh, I just want a number. Shortlist.
I just want a number.
I mean, the match was fine. It wasn't even great.
So it was 30th, 36th,
37th,
37th biggest main event in SmackDown history.
Yes.
Got it.
So that was our opening segment. We came back after break. Now Bryan and Shane were backstage, and AJ walks up complaining about this anti-AJ conspiracy. And he's going to take out Orton, says he's not afraid of fire, a Viper, or even Shane and Bryan. Then James Ellsworth is in the ring as JBL asks why they moved to HD and says that you are about to witness a match you will never see again. And he calls himself the Mac in SmackDown and introduces, he goes to say girlfriend and then corrects himself, a friend that is a girl, Carmella, for our mixed tag match, the official start of the intergender division that I have been a proponent of for quite some time. Mm-hmm. And our tag match began. First of all, Morrow said that last week Cena ethered The Miz with an epic verbal beatdown. Mm-hmm. Now, have you been following the sheathering of one Nicki Minaj? Have you been following this?
No, I have not.
Oh, man.
What's up?
Oh, it's this big feud going on.
Yeah, Remy Ma and Nicki Minaj?
Yes.
What's going on exactly? I don't know.
Well, Remy...
I feel like Braden should be here for this.
Yeah, I'm definitely not the person to really give you the beef breakdown.
Okay. Tell me.
But Remy Ma put this out like a week ago, am I right? Around a week ago?
I'm asking you.
Okay,
story,
well, she put out this diss track called Sheather.
Okay.
And there was like this, they had a photo of like a Nicki Minaj like crime scene where it's like stamped over top of her like dead body, deceased. This is pretty graphic. And Nicki Minaj has not responded. This was the equivalent of the angle when Randy Orton spit in Mick Foley's face, and Mick Foley did not respond. And now he's being called a coward by Jim Ross. Ooh, and they're asking, does Nicki Minaj need to respond? And some believe she absolutely has to, while others are stating that most of Nicki Minaj's fans are not even hardcore rap fans. They don't care about lyrical ability. They're just fans of hers. It doesn't matter. It's like, it doesn't matter if she's a great technical wrestler. She's got an amazing following.
Yeah.
She's The Rock.
But she would lose credibility amongst the hardcore fans.
But is that her prime audience?
No, but I'm sure she would like it to be. You know, I'm sure. I mean, if you're a rapper, credibility is always something that you strive for.
So anyway,
unless you're Will Smith. Then
Remy Ma goes on the Wendy Williams show.
Yeah,
and she's dressed like in a like a black hat with like she's attending a funeral, and it was like for Nicki Minaj, like in memory of Nicki Minaj.
Oh, I love it. She had this whole thing planned out.
Oh man, and she's talking, and she was there with like Fat Joe.
Yeah,
and she's talking about how Nicki Minaj has been fucking with people behind the scenes, like saying if she wouldn't win awards, she wouldn't attend the ceremony, and getting people to write up bad reviews and stuff. Like, dude, it's the best feud going today.
But it sounds one-sided right now.
It's very one-sided, but man, it's
great marketing.
To me, it's you make people want the comeback, and you expect it immediately. Yeah. And when you don't want it, you want it that much more. So in a month from now, when Nicki Minaj is just doing some fucking obscure show and fucking laces her and it goes viral, it'll be so much more impactful.
I'm sure she has to be working on something.
Oh, she's going to come out with like Remy's my bitch. That's going to be the track.
Maybe you should write it.
Oh, I might.
Yeah.
In another lifetime, I would have loved to have been a rapper. If I had that skill, it would be so fun. Not for the music part, but for like this.
Another lifetime, you were a rapper, John. You were.
Yes.
And you
prominent MMA journalist confirmed it.
Definitely had bars.
Anyway, back to SmackDown.
Yeah.
We talked about something that's way big. Could you imagine those two at WrestleMania instead of Shaq? Why don't you take that money and allocate it to something of substance?
You want to watch it, don't you?
100% I would love to watch Nicki Minaj at WrestleMania instead
trash talk
of Shaq.
Trash talk, man.
In fact, someone just sent this to me, that performing at WrestleMania will be Tinashe, who I've never heard of. Do you know Tinashe?
No.
Okay, well, there you go. Back to Ellsworth and Carmella against Cena and Nikki Bella. The bell rings, and then Miz and Maurice instantly come out, and Morrow says that Ellsworth and Carmella go together like alcohol and social media. Yes. Carmella super kicked a distracted Nikki. And then Miz is on commentary doing his well-prepared mock Cena robotic voice that he got his use out of between this and Talking Smack. And
Miz was awesome.
He said that because it's Women's History Month, John Cena needed to get out ahead of this month and let people know he has a relationship in order to help his brand.
Yeah.
Your magic word, brand. Carmella gets into Cena's face, and Nikki just nails her with this forearm. Both are down, and then they do the most hideous double 5-knuckle shuffle, which Maurice, speaking for all of us, says she is about to vomit.
10-knuckle shuffle.
The 10, I guess 10-knuckle shuffle, you're right. Did you see how off Nikki was? Like, they were not in sync. And she did something that was like the drunken version of Road Dogg's little shimmy he used to do before his knee drop, because she's just standing there waiting for John to run the ropes.
The distance covered was different between the two.
Nikki took like a step off the ropes, and there she was on top of Carmella.
Maybe she was supposed to go the other way.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was better in rehearsal. You can also sense a little bit of awkwardness between the two, having to force their relationship on camera.
Oh, dude.
In front of an audience, you know? Like, even when the two are kissing, it's a little bit awkward. And, I mean, obviously, they're a real couple. But, like, if you had to all of a sudden kiss your wife in front of an audience, that'd be weird, right? It'd be a little strange.
And for John Cena as well, I mean, he's going from this character that you just, on TV, non-total divas, I guess you're conditioned to it there, but if not, like, this is not someone you even imagine
having a girlfriend?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was very sudden last week when I mean, we all know that they're dating, and obviously Nikki's been mentioning it a lot in her storylines, but Cena has made no mention of it at all except for that one instance on Talking Smack. And that was it. And all of a sudden to have him come out, just like the kissing last week was quite awkward too. So I'm sure hopefully they're working on that.
They then delivered their combo, Nikki, the Rack Attack 2.0 and Cena's AA, and then applied the STS and STF, respectively, for the submission victory. And then Miz...
Yeah, it was adorable.
Yeah.
How cute.
Yes. And Miz and Maurice then pulled them to the floor and attacked them, with Cena sent into the steps and Nikki into the post, and then these two had to sell the effects of this for about a decade while the Miz cut a promo in the ring.
Yeah, I thought...
they did not have the recuperative power of Chris Jericho on Monday.
I thought James Ellsworth was hilarious in this segment. His promo off the top, they really found the perfect guy, and for a role like this, I think he's great. The match was like, it was what it was. I'm not watching this match expecting, Daniel Bryan, okay? I'm not watching this match expecting the Dynamite Kid versus Tiger Mask.
I was.
You were? It's a storyline that's being marketed towards a different demographic than the one that listens to this show.
Which is also the case of the WrestleMania match. I mean, this is not put together to be a great match. And it's built on promos.
But not a great technical match, but a great pro wrestling match. Listen to the reaction here. I mean...
People are getting... Listen, The Miz is doing a pretty fantastic job.
Oh, yeah, dude. And, I mean, Cena's over. Nikki's over to her audience, so the reaction here, at least...
Their brands are on fleek.
Very strong, yes. So it was a very loud reaction, and the crowd was really going wild for this.
Yeah, they were. They were into this. So Miz is in the ring, and he says that Cena and Nikki disgust him, and Cena's relationship is the biggest lie of them all. He says he spends all his time with his wife, Maurice, because he loves her. Does John do the same? He says, you don't make someone sign a contract to be your girlfriend, which was a fucking great line.
Oh, yeah.
Great line.
I love all the callbacks to Total Divas.
Oh, this guy, it feels like for this program, he got every copy of every episode and just had a notepad of go-to lines.
Maybe he'll mention, I'm sure he'll mention, his hatred of Daniel Bryan and Brie Bella's dog at some point. Him wanting to kill Daniel Bryan and Brie Bella's dog.
Yeah, it says, John, at WrestleMania, we're putting you to sleep. He says that their relationship was not allowed to be spoken about on WWE television for the longest time. Cena is emotionless. He does things for success with his brand. And this is when he did his Robo Cena voice and said Nikki, to contrast her, is an attention and power-hungry woman, and their plastic and fabricated life spits on every real relationship, and that stops now. And then Maurice gets the microphone and just says to Nikki, break that, bitch. And then these two make out. I mean, just the perfect combination in terms of a percentage of who should be talking and who should be just doing 3 words at the end.
Sure.
For the most effectiveness possible.
Yep.
This was great.
I thought it was fantastic. I mean, I love Miz saying how their relationship, Nikki and Cena's, is an attack on love. I love everything the Miz came with here, and especially on Talking Smack, where he was just really tremendous.
He better not watch 205 Live, because I think he would have issue with Noam Dar and Alicia Fox.
Yeah. So, when I found out about the match, like everybody else, I mean, I'm sure we all absolutely hated the idea of putting John Cena at WrestleMania in an intergender match, but I think it's actually been a lot of fun thus far.
Yeah, I think the build is going to be very good because they're really just there have been some great promos back and forth so far. I will say, though, that you look at Cena, and I think similar to AJ Styles, the criticism is that how many opportunities are you going to have for these guys to have those big classics on the big show? True. And this is one of those years where it's like both of these guys are going to be 40 next year.
Maybe this will be a classic.
Maybe it will be. Got to keep an open mind.
I mean, we've always heard that, Vince is not necessarily out for great matches. He's out for great moments. And depending on the outcome of this match, maybe they have something great planned.
They promote Alexa's Blissertation, which is next, and then Renee speaks to Randy Orton outside of his locker room. He says no one can stop him from facing Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania, and AJ should be afraid and run. They re-aired the Rick Rude announcement for the Hall of Fame, and then Curt Hawkins is inside the ring. He calls out Dean Ambrose, stating he started something he couldn't finish last week, and tonight the facts fight back. And Hawkins goes after him as soon as Ambrose comes out and gets beaten down instantly as the punchline to this segment, as Ambrose just takes the microphone and cuts a promo on Baron Corbin, thinks he's a scumbag, and he is the neutered wolf because he doesn't have testicles. So Baron appears on screen, calls Dean stupid, and says he doesn't show up because Dean calls him to. He says he'll come when he's ready, and he will take everything from Dean Ambrose, including his title. And Dean says that he will come to him then, and hits Hawkins with a dirty deeds on the floor just to remind us he was part of this segment. And then headed to the back for more. He was in search of Baron Corbin, which would have quite the payoff a few segments later.
I wish that they could try to find a common ground between scripted and improvised for Baron Corbin. I understand he's new, so they probably don't really have that trust with him yet, but we've seen, on Talking Smack, he comes across much better than he does in segments like these where he was fine, but it was just, I found a very generic delivery when he was on that Titantron.
Dasha was with Mojo Rawley and says that everyone is here for a WrestleMania moment. And he watched Zack Ryder win the Intercontinental title last year and announces that he is the first entrant in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. He's after his moment.
Yeah.
Why don't they call this the WrestleMania Moment Battle Royal? And the winner gets an actual plaque that says WrestleMania Moment.
Maybe a Polaroid.
Yeah.
Of the moment itself.
Yeah, and it's you could get Apple maybe to sponsor it, and so you have a photo of
they
your
don't
moment.
They don't own Polaroid, though.
But they own
iPhones?
Like space, air.
They own
moments.
The world?
Yeah.
Yeah, they own moments, okay.
Dolph then walked in, mocking Mojo, thinking he's special. It says they don't just hand out WrestleMania moments, which I'm arguing they should change, and says you have to earn it. So Mojo says, is that why you don't have a WrestleMania moment? I can't possibly imagine an argument generating out of this. You want a moment? Yeah, you don't have a moment. You got to earn a moment. Well, I'm not going to give you a moment. Holy shit. I hated this. Ziggler tells him not to hurt himself, reaching for that brass ring, and he walks off.
Yeah, so
Exciting times
you
for the
would-
Battle Royal.
You could assume all these guys, Kalisto, Cruz, Dolph,
All of them.
Mojo, all of them are
Luke
gonna be
Harper, which
in the Battle
will
Royal.
be sad for
Probably.
some, but that's probably this guy's destination.
Yeah.
Yep.
Maybe he should win.
You could, I guess. Who cares? They go back to Dean Ambrose, who's searching for Corbin, and you say that Randy Orton had a pretty calculated plan that had some risks.
Yep.
Baron Corbin kidnapped a security guard behind this random barrier that Dean just happened to come by backstage. Of all the places backstage at
wait
the
a second.
Bankers Life Fieldhouse.
Yeah, you've been to arenas backstage, and you know that they're just basically a loop, right? So I'm sure Baron Corbin was just waiting somewhere.
Well, I like the fact that he had to take a hostage for this plan to be fleshed out, and then used the security guy as a weapon. He threw this man at Dean Ambrose like an object.
Sure.
Instead of just grabbing an object. He had a pipe in his hand, but thought, no, I need a human to throw at him in order to set up my pipe attack. Because he'll see the pipe, but he'll never guess a man flies at him from behind a pillar. This is a hell of a plan.
It worked.
He knocks Dean to the floor, and of course Dean has to get in a joke where he says, "Good talk," as Corbin continues the attack, and then Baron Corbin sees a forklift.
Yeah.
This really hits close to home. Because there was one time that we had a forklift here in the office, and Wai just got so annoyed at me that he did this exact same thing to me.
Yeah.
Dean got placed in just a perfect horizontal position underneath the forklift. And Baron Corbin, who I don't know if he has his certification to operate a forklift, because you do need to have that in a workplace environment, though he is a independent contractor, operated this forklift and dropped like the bars on this fucking forklift down onto Dean Ambrose.
Yeah.
And this man was driven into the concrete.
This wasn't the first time a forklift's been used in a backstage setting in the WWE.
This made me think of Yokozuna when he had to be escorted to the back on a forklift when he broke his ankle.
Didn't this happen in that Rock and Mankind match at
That's right.
the Super Bowl?
Yep.
Isn't the finish involving a forklift?
I think so.
Well,
Forklifts are, if they're still producing DVDs a year from now, that's certainly
the best of forklifts.
They're building up to it. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Maybe they should make it a pay-per-view.
Yeah.
WWE forklift.
Yeah. You could. Maybe you could get that Campbell's soup as a sponsor.
What?
It's not a spoon. It's a forklift. Remember that campaign?
No.
For that. Sorry. This segment did wonders on my brain.
I thought Ambrose just looked so dumb lying there for that very slow forklift to lower on top of him. I mean, a house burning down I can actually buy more than this slowly lowering forklift on a man who was clearly conscious and could have had every moment to roll out.
I loved that the second this forklift was dropped onto Ambrose's body, then all these heroes run out to help. But all these fuckers are standing around as Baron is preparing to do this. And what are they thinking? Oh, he can't possibly. He won't actually.
Were they standing around? Maybe
They were in the shot instantly.
Oh, they were.
I mean, they're hanging around as this dude is attacking a man with a pipe, placing him under a forklift, and they still are giving this asshole the benefit of the doubt that he's not going to try and murder this guy. But then once they've actually, oh shit, let's get in there.
Hey, man, a man has a loaded gun. Are you just going to step up and try to grab it from
Pull
him?
Dean to safety.
This is a forklift. What if he lowered the forklift onto you?
There, as you said, there was a lot of time between Baron getting into this vehicle and operating it before near death was occurring.
They ought to just ban forklifts.
What are these two going to do at WrestleMania?
Forklift match.
Maybe it's time you bring back the monster truck challenge that Hogan and Paul White had.
How about a forklift challenge where they both ride forklifts on top of the arena?
Or you bring in Abdullah the Butcher as the special guest referee and they're both using forks.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Or forklift race.
There's a lot of ways you could look at this.
Yeah, think of the toy opportunities.
What if they're in monster trucks with Abdullah as the guy with the checkered flag to signal the winner, and they've got to go through a maze, and they get into a fork in the road.
Oh, okay.
Where they have to, it's like choose your own adventure of which path they go down, and then at the end there's a stipulation match at the end of each road.
What if they stacked forks and see who could lift the most forks? A forklifting match.
Man, it could be infinite.
Yeah.
I'm curious how many forks I could lift. Like, you take it for granted how light they are, but they start to stack up. It's a lot.
How many do you like stacked? It's more so the grip. You need to have a large grip.
Grip strength would be big.
Yeah. How many forks can a man actually lift in one hand?
That's a great idea.
This is a whole pay-per-view worth.
So then when you eventually align these two together, it's the two of them caught together spooning.
Oh, man. What a twist. What a twist.
Oh, my God. What are we doing? What are we doing with our lives?
Yeah, this show should be canceled.
SmackDown or our show?
Our show.
Well, yeah, who knows? Alexa comes out with Mickie James for the Blissertation. And Alexa reminds us where the sign is in the arena.
They all did.
Yeah, I was never lost.
I mean, I'm sure it's written in the directions on whatever script or rundown they're given. Points to sign.
I think
asterisk. Points to sign asterisk.
I think because, Randy Orton's had so much shoulder surgery, I think there's actual metal now in his shoulder, and it's magnetized. So every march, his arm he doesn't even know what it's doing. It just automatically points that sign, because Randy is the guy synonymous with the sign point. Alexa is going to announce her opponent. So unbelievable power bestowed upon the women this week between Bayley and Alexa, where they're just, hey, you can announce your opponent.
It was taken away from her.
Both, yeah. I guess they were fearing an abuse of power in both situations. She says who it won't be. It won't be Naomi. It won't be Nikki, who's in the trainer's room right now. It won't be Carmella, and it definitely won't be Chucky, Becky Lynch, who you got to see last weekend.
Yeah, she was at the UFC.
Yeah.
Cheering on her boyfriend, Luke Sanders.
Who unbelievably found a way to lose that fight that he was dominating. Mm-hmm. Just dominating.
Yep.
Unbelievable
Was
finish.
that first round of 10-8 to you?
Yeah, definitely. But
9-8.
Became a 9-8 after the illegal knee. And my God, was Yuri Alcantara given every I was amazed that fight wasn't stopped beforehand. And then, I mean, everyone was talking about Darren Elkin's comeback, and that was incredible. But lost was Alcantara. Just being murdered in this fight, and boom, locks on a knee bar, down on his hips go down. It was you do not see too many knee bar finishes at that high of a level. Unless you're talking, elite level grapplers that are against inferior competition. I mean, it's rare those happen. And boom, Alcantara taps him. Sanders knew instantly it was locked on tight. That was incredible.
It was beautiful.
Anyway, Becky comes out.
It was a dis-near.
The dis-near. Yeah. The dis-knee. The
dis-legger.
Yeah, okay. Not as easy. Becky comes out, and she has her own statement to make, a declaration, so to speak. She says she's going to defeat Alexa to regain the title at WrestleMania. That prompts Natalya to come out, says that her and Alexa have come to an understanding that they are championship caliber material, and Becky is not in their league. But Bliss asks if Natalya has gotten into the catnip because she is not getting a title shot at WrestleMania, and calls Natalya the worst there is, was, and ever will be. So Mickie then tells everyone to shut up and says, of course, she's going to be the opponent, with Alexa surprised by this news, and Mickie thought they had a deal. And Becky brings up that she beat her twice last week and repeated this for good measure. So Daniel Bryan has to come out to sort this all out. He would grade this Blissertation with an F, and said that Alexa had claimed to be the greatest women's wrestler on the roster, and the only way to find out is by having her defend the title against every woman on the SmackDown roster. Alexa said, "You can't do that." And Bryan said, "It's literally my job." And then made a Teddy Long reference and put together a tag match.
Yeah, the whole it leaves the door open for a potential Naomi reappearance if she's cleared.
Exactly, without having to advertise her.
Yeah, I mean, so this also means Carmella is eligible, maybe even Tamina, and maybe even Eva Marie.
I wonder if this is going to be a gauntlet match or just a multi-person match with everyone together, because
I don't know if they have time for a
gauntlet
match.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I would assume it's a every woman match, which could be a bit of a mess. So
definitely.
I mean, they got 4 girls here.
And probably 10 minutes you're looking at.
Yeah, if they got Naomi, that would be 5. A big pop for her entrance and maybe a win. I mean, she doesn't even have to win. So even 5 is a lot, but they always manage to book the multi-woman matches pretty well. So it could be pretty good.
So we got our tag match with Alexa and Mickie against Natalya and Becky Lynch, and this match was long. Mickie cut off Becky and brings her into their corner, and they worked over Becky in their corner for maybe 3 episodes of SmackDown is what it felt like. It just went on forever, getting this heat on Becky. Bliss is stomping her. Becky continually tries to fight out, gets cut off.
They had to do that, though, because of the finish.
Yeah, it just went for quite a while, and then finally, Natalya enters the ring, comes on over, and just attacks Becky with a released German and leaves. Bliss then tags herself in, steals the pin for the big glory spot, pinning Becky. And then after the match, Mickie and Alexa are standing, and Mickie James attacks Alexa with a Mick kick, grabs the title, stares at it, and holds it up, and it looks like the return of of Mickie James as a heel is done. And
she's still a heel.
Is she?
Yeah, I'd say so. They're all heels. I mean, so is Natalya.
Oh, they're all heels.
But they're all for themselves.
Well, it's the end of the alliance.
Yes.
With Alexa and Mickie.
That's how I read it. I didn't think this was a babyface turn at all.
Yes.
They might even join back together afterwards. Who knows?
Then we had Austin Aries promo recapping his attack on Neville, and all the questions about his future will be answered at the start of 205 Live tonight.
I understand they need to kind of shoot these a little differently from the body of the show, but I feel like it makes these guys look like such jobbers to just stand in front of that monitor talking. It just doesn't... I don't know. I feel like it's just
Jack Gallagher should do it
lazy.
each week.
It fits his character, but I mean, for me, like, to see Aries, who I consider a bigger personality, a more serious personality, I would like to see something a bit more, I don't know, high profile.
AJ's out for the main event. He gets on the mic and says SmackDown is the house that Styles built, and when he was champion, ratings could not have been higher, which is not true. You can never have a max number.
Were they higher?
Ratings could always be higher.
Oh, okay.
I mean, SmackDown has definitely improved, but a lot of that is the fact they are now live on Tuesday nights. I think that more than anything is the difference in SmackDown. But let's be honest, SmackDown is when that draft occurred, everyone thought, man, SmackDown got the low end, and I mean, SmackDown to me is the superior show week to week. Mm-hmm. I don't think there's much question to that. He made a B show into an A show and says he's been disrespected by Shane and Bryan. Meanwhile, Randy Orton is rewarded for burning down a man's house. And the crowd agreed. They started chanting for AJ, and he said, I know exactly who I am, and I was built for the main event of WrestleMania. And Orton will not stop him.
AJ is a total babyface here, and I assume this reaction will continue into WrestleMania.
This guy could definitely be a big babyface coming out of WrestleMania. I could see the same with, I see AJ and Owens in very similar positions.
AJ way more so than Owens. I mean, Owens is actually doing heelish things, and I don't think people like Owens and they respect Owens, but they also, I feel Owens is a better heel.
I do too. And to be honest, I think AJ's got more. He's got lots more in this heel character. I hope they don't just... I mean, he could be a great babyface too, don't get me wrong, but I think both...
He is a great babyface right now.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, he's fighting it though.
Yeah, he really is.
But if you look ahead, like beyond WrestleMania, if you take that tease on Raw and you assume Lesnar wins the title, I mean, how does that program work with Owens as a heel?
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know.
A lot of questions after WrestleMania. AJ and Orton. I was looking forward to this. I mean, this is a combination that I've wanted to see ever since they were paired on SmackDown together.
You said this was the 37th biggest main event in SmackDown history.
Well, I'm saying the actual match.
Well, 37 is a lot. I'm saying 37 out of what, 1,000 is quite high.
Yeah, I mean the infinite longest running television show in any recorded history.
Yeah.
Or unrecorded history as well. I mean, the Bible couldn't touch SmackDown.
Wow.
Orton goes for the RKO immediately, and Styles bails to the floor. JBL says that Orton has been on the dark side since he was 12 years old, which begged a follow-up of what happened when he was 12. Why was Randall Orton of age 12 versus age 11 such a stark contrast?
I don't know if I want to know that.
Maybe that's when the voices in his head began. It was like messed up puberty.
Dude, I don't... Yeah, you could go a lot of places with that. No, I don't know.
Styles attacks him with leg kicks, and then Orton hit an exploder, sent Styles to the floor, and then back suplexes him onto the barricade. And then Styles clips the knee of Orton and goes back to working the leg. And Styles applied a rear chin lock. Orton gets out, fired back with clotheslines, power slam, a full Nelson slam. And then Orton seats Styles on the top, and he couldn't help it. He stares at the WrestleMania sign and allows Styles to sneak out from underneath and hits with Ushigoroshi, then goes for the Styles Clash. That's blocked as they go to the ropes. A draping DDT was avoided, and Styles applied the calf crusher. Orton got to the rope, and then Styles goes for the springboard and gets knocked down. Then this time he is hit with the draping DDT. He calls for the RKO, but Styles catches him with the Pele kick, and then Styles goes for the phenomenal forearm, but he fakes Orton, who was going to catch him in midair with the RKO. And as Styles faked it, Orton takes a bump off the RKO, which will supply every Orton video from now until eternity. You can just take this.
Oh, really? You think it'll be a green screen?
100%.
Thing? Wow. I never thought of that.
Yeah. I was hardly the first person to come up with this.
It would take quite a bit of rotoscoping, though, to really...
There's work ahead of it, but come on. This seems tailor-made for that.
Okay. They should just release that in a green screen for people, like Van Damme did.
Yeah.
Jean-Claude Van Damme.
So Orton takes the bump off the RKO attempt, then rolls out of the way of a springboard 450, gets up, presses AJ in the air, and hits the RKO for a finish. Really solid finishing sequence here. And Orton wins the match, poses on the turnbuckle, and then points to the sign as AJ is just broken on the ramp in disbelief.
Yeah, I thought it was an excellent match. I loved the finish. I thought the RKO fake-out was timed really well. And a very good main event, worthy of being the 37th biggest main event in SmackDown history. And
I like the main event. I just feel these two getting 25 minutes on pay-per-view would blow this away.
Perhaps.
So my expectations were super high for this.
I could say this was definitely better than Joe versus Jericho on Monday.
Oh, or even, what praise.
Or even Joe versus Zayn. I mean, but those are similar situations where, it's a first-time matchup between two... essentially, they're dream matches for anybody who's followed the careers of all these guys. But Randy and AJ definitely got more time and had a more memorable match on SmackDown. And, I understand the need to fill out all those weeks with this Randy storyline, but Randy really did leave a lot at risk here. What if he lost this match? What if? You have to ask these things.
Champions don't think what if way. They just think when.
Yeah. Anyway, good SmackDown.
Yeah. Before we go to Talking Smack, we had a rare bridge between the two with an angle they shot backstage where AJ comes to the back. And we've got
The names,
they aired this on Talking Smack, which I guess we can...
It was a WWE.com exclusive that they cut to mid-Talking Smack, and you see AJ walking to the back. First of all, the show started, 205 Live started with the tail end of SmackDown.
Yeah.
With AJ and Randy and the ring crew still taping the ring because...
Can't expect Randy to run. to the
He was
back.
walking. True, that's probably why.
Yeah. Fuck
Anyway,
this.
so on Talking Smack, they cut to backstage, and it was AJ Styles walking through the curtain back into Gorilla, and you see Michael Hayes sitting down.
Jamie Noble, Adam Pearce.
Michael Cole was there, which I thought was maybe I wonder if like that was. I'm sure it was all intentional. I'm sure
All of it was
all
intentional, and I think they just wanted maybe he's the legit producer of the announcers.
Yeah.
and, yeah.
It kind of defeats the whatever.
Yeah,
Who gives a shit?
They
If
gave
you're-
up on that years ago.
Yeah. So then AJ walks to the back, and Shane is there, of course, on headset. And
Good
AJ,
show.
And AJ just starts freaking out at Shane, starts yelling at him, asking, "Is this what you call an opportunity?" Is that what he said?
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. And then
He's getting in Shane's face, and they have to be separated with
Road Dogg
and Michael Hayes in his big purple outfit.
Yep.
And Road Dogg is just calming him down. And the highlight here was Road Dogg at the end of this just yelling, "Jiminy Christmas!" And Shane, this guy, he just knocks shit over. Like, hey, I'm a tough guy. Oh God, this guy is just. It just feels so contrived. You know what I mean?
When you're angry, you don't knock shit over. You don't throw your headset at glasses,
No, I don't. But anyway,
cups.
Did you like this angle?
I thought it was great. I thought it was believable.
Yeah, it was fine.
Especially the inclusion of all the agents back there. It gives that hint of believability.
Yeah, so that was our post, our Jiminy Christmas angle at the end of SmackDown, and
So are we supposed to believe that Vince isn't backstage at SmackDowns?
yeah, I guess not. It was Vince is not running that show there.
okay.
No, it's Shane's show.
Doesn't Hunter work?
I feel that would have been too contradictory for
Yeah,
them.
of course. In reality, though, does he?
Hunter will typically, like, for those shows when Vince was away recently, I mean, it was Hunter running the shows, but it's typically Vince there. That's, the main guy running
Right.
things. So on Talking Smack, they announced Bray and Randy Orton for WrestleMania, and Bryan immediately gives Renee shit for doing Raw talk and gives her advice to not be on shows that are bad, with Bryan calling it a horrible show on Monday night or on Sunday night after the pay-per-view.
He just doesn't care.
Oh, the Bryan less fucks than usual to
Yeah.
give on this show.
Yeah.
Alexa Bliss is on first. She's upset about Mickey and says she was forgotten about. I think TakeOver in Toronto was forgotten about, to be honest, for Alexa. And that Mickey returned there. But she then goes on to say that she called up Mickey. She picked up the phone and said, "Hey, Mickey, I have an idea for you." And Bryan asks, "Are you sure you didn't say, 'Hey, Mickey, you're so fine'?" And Alexa just tried to keep a straight face and said, "No, I did not say that." And she's going to prove she's the best woman on SmackDown at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
That was the highlight of this interview.
Yeah.
They replayed the Ambrose forklift attack. And poor Renee, who was just,
Renee was the best.
she was metaphorically placed under a forklift in having to assess this and act like a concerned girlfriend, watching her boyfriend being squished into oblivion, and says she has not spoken to him yet and will have to get an update on Dean after the show. Yeah, you probably will need to get an update on his life and if it is still moving. Poor Renee.
Yeah,
Did
Renee.
this even need to air on this show?
It was a major angle that deserved recapping. Sure. I thought Renee did a good job, as good of a job as you could expect a girlfriend to act after seeing her boyfriend trapped underneath the forklift. It was somewhat believable.
I would hate way if I had a near-death experience,
Yeah.
and then you had to do commentary on it for me.
Okay. If you,
I would want you, Way, to just not talk about it.
legit question. If you had to book Renee in this segment, how would you have had her act? Would you even have her be on Talking Smack with something like this?
I would seriously contemplate that if you're serious about this angle getting over. My second option would have been, we're not starting the show off jokey. It's Renee instantly identifying this and stating she is not talking about this with Daniel Bryan and should play that. Or else don't have her there.
I imagine like a CNN anchor, having to deliver a news story for somebody that they actually knew or was friends with. You know what I mean? And that type of gravity, which we obviously didn't necessarily get here. But that's a lot to expect for a pro wrestling show.
Maybe The Miz would take issue with Renee and Dean here not having enough concern.
If that's their next feud, perhaps. But I feel like Dean Ambrose maybe doesn't want to be a part of that.
Apollo Crews was on next to announce that he too will be in the Andre the Giant Battle Royal, and this can really catapult him up the ranks. And he talked about debuting the night after WrestleMania last year. He's got a big watch, and then he dropped some Snoop Dogg lyrics as Bryan asked if they are allowed to talk about pimps in the crib.
Was this in reference to something last week?
Because Bryan made a drop it like it's hot reference.
Right, okay, and Cruz was correcting him.
Yeah. That was his appearance.
Okay.
This is where they aired the AJ Shane video, so that angle is in motion.
Yeah, coming out of it, they had Bryan basically...
Oh, this was great.
Yeah, talk about...
his own issue, which was a legit story in 2013 when his match with Randy Orton was stopped after he got a stinger off a missile drop kick.
Something like that.
I think it was a missile drop kick.
Or was it a suicide dive?
I think it was a missile drop kick. Okay. And then he continued and did a suicide dive, I think. And coming backstage and just yelling at Hunter in a similar fashion to the way AJ got upset at Shane with Road Dogg separating them in 2013.
Because his match was stopped.
Yes, because the match was stopped, and it would have been the biggest win of his career. And again, tying it into the WWE context.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't that... It legit was a match that was designed to get Bryan over with a big win. But it felt... Like, the key to talking smack is still making the storylines come off real.
Yeah, and Bryan does a tremendous job of that. He was using here a real-life analogy, a real-life experience to help you sympathize with AJ Styles' storyline. And I think Bryan, of anybody on that roster, does the best job of mixing reality with his in-character dialogue and just being able to sound very natural and genuine doing it. So
you always know there's a great Daniel Bryan story or anecdote when he says the words in response to a question or thought. It's interesting. Whatever follows that, it's always usually something interesting. Mm-hmm. He never lies about that preface. The Miz and Maurice are on last, and they ask how Cena and Nikki got to make this match with Ellsworth and Carmella. And Bryan said, well, we approved it. Miz doesn't buy it. He thinks Cena gets special privileges to matchmake on SmackDown. And it's because of his relationship with Daniel Bryan. He says how last week he was told by Cena that he doesn't have his own voice. He stole his personality from Jericho. He said, well, Cena stole his personality in 2002 from every white kid with an identity crisis. He stole his AA from Tommy Dreamer. He stole his girlfriend from Dolph Ziggler. And he stole his last T-shirt design from a beer company. Clearly going in ascending order of offenses. And he thinks that it was Cena that convinced Daniel Bryan to draft him later than number one because he knew he wouldn't be around all the time. So on top of that, asserting collusion with Raw, assuming Raw would not draft him either. I mean, this is right up there with Trump's wiretapping allegations. No evidence brought forth by The Miz either to this. And Bryan immediately just scoffed at this notion that he would draft him later because he wasn't going to be around. Bryan says, more people come to the show when John Cena is advertised. And Miz says that's because they believe in all his crap. Says Cena got approval from The Undertaker and Kurt Angle on his very first night in the WWE. And he, in contrast, The Miz was told he's awful and would be gone within 3 months. Bryan said, well, Cena was almost fired in 2002, and Miz has never been close to being fired because he's a shill for the company. Miz says, I could leave tomorrow and be an actor. And Bryan, can't wrestle any longer. They got into an argument, by the way, that Bryan couldn't be an actor. And Bryan said, I don't want to be an actor. And Miz says, you can't wrestle because of your head. So Bryan says, I can't, or they won't let me. We'll see what happens in a year and a half.
I thought this was the most controversial thing to come out of the show.
This had to have been the most discussed line on any of the shows.
I would assume that this was improvised and perhaps stemming from a real, very real frustration that still exists with Daniel Bryan.
There is, unless they're just being.
They would never say this in storyline.
No,
Why?
there's zero positive for the WWE to tease a Bryan return that they are never delivering on. Mm-hmm. And this isn't even teasing that. It's that when this guy's contract's up, he can go wrestle for CMLL or New Japan, which once he's not under contract, do you see promotions really putting that restriction on him to not wrestle?
No.
They will do backflips to let this guy do backflips.
Yeah. I mean, I wonder if they would be concerned about this, because coming out of this show, this is much of the debate or much of the discussion is Daniel Bryan saying this line. And, you know, this is also, it matches his behavior on Talking Smack for the most part, you know, still playing a character, but at the same time, really coming across like he doesn't give a shit about being fired.
I'm telling you, if Bryan and Miz could ever have a match, it could headline a pay-per-view. It could headline WrestleMania.
I think it could.
Like, this is the best feud in the company.
Yeah,
and there's no payoff to it ever coming in this company. Mm-hmm. Could you imagine those two outside the WWE? Do you know how hated The Miz would be?
No, that'll never happen. In Ring of Honor?
Oh.
The Miz in Ring of Honor would be awesome.
Welcome to Evolve 285. Bryan Danielson, the American Dragon, against Mike Mizanin. Night one. Be amazing.
It would be great.
Draw at least 4,000 people.
Yeah. At least. Yeah.
Set an Evolve attendance record. It ended with Maurice then having this back and forth with The Miz about the treatment Nikki has received. Miz asks, what was Nikki doing before she hooked up with John Cena? She was a celebrity handler, which that was the big role of Brie and Nikki, was they would escort the celebrity host of Raw to the ring every week. Mm-hmm. And then she started dating John Cena and became the longest reigning Divas champion and also got Total Divas. Now, this is where Maurice, to me, broke the rule we just talked about, because there is nothing attached to the WWE program where John Cena would have influence to make Nikki the longest reigning champion. In order to move that argument forward, you have to admit the wrestling is bullshit. It's a small thing.
Not necessarily.
But we can't praise when they keep stuff in the world and then you have a line like that where it's contradictory to that. That's the only line I would take issue with.
You can also argue that maybe it was Cena that gave Cena's association with Nikki that allowed Nikki all those opportunities for title shots in storyline, you know, and for opportunities where the odds
but to become the longest reigning champion.
Yeah. Maybe. I mean,
John was the secret matchmaker, and these women were all stiffs?
Not because of John, but because of people in the company who have respect for John that would, in turn, place Nikki into favorable situations in her matches.
Yeah, that to me is
I
just...
could buy it. I didn't have a problem with the line.
To me, it's the insinuation is these matches are all Nikki's booked to win.
Not necessarily. I mean, you could see it in the UFC. There are people that are protected, you know, that are popular and given easier matchups than others.
Then that's kind of a downgrade of your entire women's division. She had the title for...
not even necessarily. Cause
she beat all the women.
She did, but she had to cheat to win all those matches.
Well, how does John Cena have any impact there?
I'm saying maybe the officials, and again, we're all talking in storyline here. Perhaps the WWE officials were very lax on the rules for Nikki Bella matches. You know what I mean? They also didn't put her in a ton of matches defending her title at the time, if I'm not mistaken. So that's another way of protecting.
That's how the show ended. And
God, I thought the Miz was on fire here. Like, outside of that initial big appearance he had on Talking Smack, this might have been his second best. I think Miz.
This was also building to something, whereas the first one was a great individual performance, but went nowhere.
Yeah.
This one is building a WrestleMania match. So I would actually look at this one as, while not at the performance level, was more effective because it's building to a match.
Yeah, Miz now is throwing in a number of really deep-cutting, worked-shoot points in this feud with John Cena. He's essentially kind of speaking as an internet smart mark who hates anything that...
Oh, that is the Robo-Cena voice, I feel. It doubles over.
Who hates anything that Cena is favorably booked in. And anytime Cena is pushed, maybe he did research on the internet. Just went on message boards to see what I can use to attack Cena.
Like, he is coming off as a truly despicable heel.
Yep.
That I feel is one of the guys that is going to have a pretty pro-Cena crowd. That they're giving sympathy towards Cena here, I feel.
Perhaps. I could also see it being the other way, because The Miz right now is being such an entertaining heel that he could start to gain babyface favor. But for the most part, I feel like the demographic for this feud will be people that will still accept Cena as the babyface and will hate Miz as the heel. And as a result, I mean, I thought these two just killed it here, and now I'm actually excited for this intergender tag team match at WrestleMania.
Yeah, so this was a really great segment on Talking Smack, and I thought that we had a pretty effective show just in terms of building everything for WrestleMania. And as we look now at the card here, Goldberg-Lesnar we've got, Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton, Jericho Owens, Undertaker Roman Reigns, Styles and Shane, Cena and Nikki against Miz and Maurice, Bayley, Charlotte, and Sasha for the women's title, the Alexa Bliss Open Challenge against all the women on the roster.
Dude, this is a huge show.
Well, keep track of all these matches here. Okay, so Anderson and Gallows, presumably against Cesaro and Sheamus, and Enzo and Cass. Believe that will be a three-way. Austin Aries and Neville, the Andre Battle Royal, and then on top of that, you could still get Big Show and Shaq.
Yep.
You could get something with American Alpha and the Usos.
Yeah.
And if the cruiserweights, like, you're looking at, like, what is that, 13, 14 matches? Like, this is a loaded, a lengthy show that there's going to be some people without a lot of time.
What are we talking, like a 5-hour show at least? Maybe 6?
They've announced the start time is 7. They haven't said how long the pre-show will be, but I can't see it being less than 2 hours. Yeah. So I think you're looking at 6 again, like last year.
6 hours. In 6 hours, they could fit all that. Plus, you have a musical performance in there.
9, 10. So it's like 11 matches, not including Shaq,
shit, man.
Cruiserweight multi-person, and American Alpha. So anywhere from 11 to 14 matches could end up on this show.
It's almost too much.
Oh, and maybe a medley, as you said. Maybe we'll get a Tanash, or unless you can get, Nicki Minaj, which then you book another hour on the network for. So
well, it's unfortunate. I feel the pressure to put everybody on the show, but it's a lot to. It's kind of at the detriment of the entire show itself when you're putting so much onto it.
Do you think we'll get American Alpha and the Usos, or could those 4 be thrown in the Battle Royal?
I feel that might be a kickoff thing.
Oh, definitely kickoff.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be where I'd see the cruiserweights. That's where I could see Neville and Aries too. I mean,
do you even have enough bodies for the Andre Battle Royal from SmackDown without using those guys? I feel like everybody on SmackDown has a match, or if not, they're jobbers. And
I mean, it's like you're looking at all the undercard guys that have no real spot, and that's where your Zigglers and I think there's more names on the SmackDown side than Raw, because Raw you've got Braun.
Right.
That'd be an awful place for Balor if you are going to put him on.
The problem this year, I mean, they should really save Balor if there's no place for him. The problem this year is that they have 2 sets of titles for every title, and the pressure to put all of them on might be a little much.
Oh, I didn't even mention in that lineup Corbin and Ambrose. That's your IC title match. So that's another match. That's 12 matches.
Yeah.
12 to 15 is now our range.
The forklift match.
Forklift match.
Waiting for so much.
Yes.
205 Live.
Let's chat about it. Styles and Orton were still leaving the ring as we began the show. And it's just Morrow and Corey on commentary, so maybe we're going to have a two-man booth permanently.
It's what it seems like. Did you like it?
I was fine with it.
Do you think it was better with Aries?
I think there's good interplay at times with Graves and Aries, but I didn't mind this. It was actually a little jarring to only have two voices.
It was. If they were to pick a cruiserweight to enter that booth, who would you pick? It doesn't even have to be from the roster, although I feel like it should because they have so many guys. Could be from NXT if you're looking to debut somebody there. The problem is, like, who can really talk amongst the 205 roster right now?
You know who'd be the best one? And it doesn't really make
Tony
a whole...
Nese.
Yeah, that would be Nese, but I'd love Cassius Ohno.
He's not a 205er, though.
I'm just saying as a guy to be on color.
He'd be tremendous.
But what is... If you're going to put someone there, it should probably be someone that can benefit from it. Because why are we going to have someone doing what Corey does?
Right.
So there needs to be a point for it.
It needs to be somebody who's different from Corey.
So amongst your cruiserweights, I mean, there aren't a whole lot of guys on that roster. I'm thinking, like, I don't want to hear Brian Kendrick on there.
True.
Jack Gallagher would probably wear out his welcome.
Yeah, he's also probably better served in ring.
Yeah. Like, there's no need to put a guy permanently there, especially one that's on the roster. So it's like, why do you need someone there? So
interesting.
Austin Aries is in the ring. He says he has secured the greatest interview to date, that with himself. And he goes to interview himself, which has been done before, but is very difficult to pull off unless you're The Rock. Interviewing yourself.
I also didn't like it, considering the guy is now a straight-up babyface, and he's still doing this kind of heelish comedy act that I felt wasn't necessarily the best for the tone coming off of Monday.
He said he could punch Neville in the face because he could. He had a broken eye hole. He learned a lesson in grade school about finding the toughest guy in the room and punching him in the face, and that's what he did because Neville is that guy. He says that Aries, the expert journalist, is no more, and Aries, the in-ring expert, is here on 205 Live. So Neville comes out. He thought it was a momentary lapse in judgment, but says that Aries has gone off the deep end. Aries isn't at his A level. Aries says, I'm at the A double level. And then Neville responds, well, the level around here is the Neville level, and you're not even close. So this was a video game that I was very confused by. And tells him to go back to the announcer's desk. Neville says he has not earned the right yet to share the ring with him. For whatever reason, they randomly cut to Corey and Morrow taking notes, and then returned. And says there is a locker room ready to fight Aries, and Aries will have an open challenge later on tonight. So it's obvious the direction we're going is a singles program with these two for WrestleMania. And later on in the show, Neville cut a promo where it looks like the challenger will be set on next week's show.
Neville, I realize his delivery, and I like it a lot, but I realize his delivery is like that of a pirate's.
A little.
And it sets him apart. I like it, especially amongst the cruiserweights. Nobody else really has it, and he's very good at playing a pirate.
I really like Neville's promo style. I think it's...
Yeah, I do too.
Like, he has a distinct voice to him.
I feel like he needs to do something about that hair, though. That thing with the shaved sides, like, shaved to the... It's just a little weird.
Yeah, maybe he needs a
mullet is what he needs.
Wow.
Yeah.
That could be it. It could be red. A red arrow.
Whoa.
Morrow says that Styles and Shane had a heated confrontation backstage, and there will be an update on Talking Smack. Swan and Gallagher are in the locker room, with Swan teaching his mannerisms to Gallagher as Noam Dar walks in, asks about the flowers that were delivered to Fox last week, and Swan says, I thought you were the one that bought them. And Dar says, yeah, take lessons tonight from how you treat a woman. And then Gallagher asks Swan about this hip-hop thing.
So he didn't actually buy the flowers?
Someone bought the flowers for Alicia Fox. He took credit for them, and now he's trying to find out secretly who is the one who sent the flowers.
Are we supposed to believe that Rich Swann bought them?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Which maybe
so why didn't Rich Swann take credit?
Well, he's fucking with them. He doesn't want to be outed. Or it's someone else completely.
But it obviously didn't work.
Maybe it's secretly Cedric trying to win back Alicia. Or just be a homewrecker.
Okay.
Noam Dar and Arya Daivari took on Rich Swann and Jack Gallagher. Decent match here. Daivari missed a high kick. Swan landed his own. Tagged in Gallagher, who did a headstand into a drop kick off the corner turnbuckle. Swan made the tag in, headbutt to Daivari by Gallagher, and a running drop kick while Swan hit a Phoenix splash, pinning Dar in 6:06.
Yeah, I feel like in short time after their title programs, Swan and Gallagher kind of feel like they're far lower now than the title picture, especially when you're comparing kind of the personalities in Neville and Austin Aries, who I definitely consider a big level above. And certainly a guy like, Gallagher has a lot of upside and probably will could eventually be a worthy champion. But for now, I see this match and I feel like there's a big gap between these guys and where the main event is right now on 205. And where's TJ Perkins?
He was absent, though he's on tonight's NXT against Nakamura.
Oh, yeah, wow, cool.
Dar and Fox are in the ring, and some guy comes down with chocolates for Fox, and Dar accuses the guy of being late and then gave the chocolates to Alicia, saying that she is sweeter than all of them. Now, it was one of those heart-shaped candy boxes.
Yeah.
And I didn't know if he meant you were late, like you were supposed to come earlier in the match, or he was late, that this was like a Valentine's Day gift.
I'm pretty sure he meant he was late, like this was supposed to come during the match.
Okay. I was hoping that this would be a Valentine's.
So are we led to believe that this was also from somebody else and not from Noam Dar?
This one was more up for debate, whether Dar was just, again, taking credit for it.
His reaction was immediate, though. Oh, you were late.
Yeah, and the announcers didn't throw out any doubt into Dar's sincerity.
So what the fuck is this? What's going on?
I didn't spend or utilize a brain cell thinking about this, so I have no analysis
God.
of what this is. Tom Phillips then interviewed Brian Kendrick, who is tempted to turn down Akira Tozawa's challenge, but he isn't learning, so he's going to teach him another lesson, and he will get the chance to fight Brian Kendrick. So Kendrick comes out with Tozawa in the ring and says he is a man of his word, and said Tozawa will get his chance to fight Brian Kendrick. And then he introduces Brian Kendrick with a Y. He said, this is not the Brian Kendrick, this is a Brian Kendrick. And out came Eric Cannon.
Oh.
And the lesson was to always read the fine print. And Cannon, wrestling as fake Brian Kendrick.
A Brian Kendrick.
With
a Y.
Gets hit with a head kick, penalty kick, and a senton. And Graves says that Akira is furious, like he's been shot out of a cannon, as his wink to the crowd. Cannon attacked him from behind as Tozawa was distracted, delivered a big slap, and then Tozawa with this kind of messed up Hurricane Rana head scissors, then hit a spin kick to the body, ducked, and the bridging German for the win in a minute 20.
I feel like they're dragging this Kendrick Tozawa thing way too long. And I really, this tonight was dumb but funny, but I just don't feel like Kendrick is doing enough to build that heat between the two to make me really want to see that match. So I hope they get through with it quick.
I think this is one build where we don't assume the end comes at WrestleMania.
Yeah, probably not.
Safe assumption?
I hope it ends before WrestleMania.
I think it will. Dasha is with Neville backstage and says that Aries will take on Tony Nese tonight. Neville says how Aries will regret his career decision and calls his wisecracks lowest common denominator. And now he will suffer the consequences. Says Nese is no walk in the park, and only one man will get to stand across the ring from him at WrestleMania. I think making it clear we're getting a singles program, and whoever wants that shot will have their work cut out for them on next week's episode. So something to build next week. And Aries and Tony Nese was our main event. And Aries did this headstand escape from the legs of Nese into a drop kick. He thumbed Nese in the eye at one point, and then as he flipped over the apron, seemed to lose his balance, falling down and then selling his knee. Aries then hit a neck breaker on the middle rope, climbed to the top, got crotched. There was a fireman's carry into a gutbuster by Nese, the cartwheel off the apron into a super kick. Nese is yelling down at Aries. Aries then fights back with a pair of left hands. There was a small delete chant from the crowd, and then clotheslines by Aries. He hit an STO, pendulum elbow, and then Nese came back with a deadlift power bomb. And Aries came back, hit a lope under the middle rope, and then a roaring elbow, which appears to be his new finish, and maybe not.
Yeah.
Cassius Ohnos at 9:43. Aries won.
Could be Ono's too. Has Ono wrestled yet on NXT?
He's done a taping, which his match with Bobby Roode will be on next week's episode.
Right.
They recently taped at UCF, but I guess if he goes to do his Roaring Elbow, they'll be telling him, Cassius, oh no. Maybe he can have a 450 or a Brainbuster.
Probably,
in a trade.
And I mean, Aries might do those other ones too. But a pretty decent 205 debut for Aries. And it's funny because, like, I think Aries is awesome, but it feels like on this show, in ring, he doesn't necessarily stand out all that much because the level is so high amongst all these guys on this show.
Even higher than Neville's level?
Higher than the Neville level. Not that high. But what does set Aries apart, of course, is his personality and his charisma, which he may be the best in the roster. So for the first time, in the 205 Live division, you have a very over babyface and a very over heel who are both very capable on the microphone. So I think this is a WrestleMania-worthy title matchup.
We go on to the Law message board. We start off with Mark from Vaughan. We already have 10 tentative or confirmed matches for Mania with 3 titles unaccounted for. Do you think we'll see the year set a record for matches in 15 and as well as length, shaping up as another Mania short on potential show stealers? Well, we went over kind of the card of what's been announced and what they're hinting towards. And yeah, if Big Show and Shaq gets added, you could very well come close to 15 matches. I think you're probably looking at least 12 and maybe more. So that's it. Of all the matches, is there that one match that you feel has that ability to be your big, memorable match, just like quality-wise?
Certainly. I think Jericho and Owens has the potential to be very good. I think Rollins Triple H could be quite good.
I didn't even include that.
Oh, you didn't?
Holy shit, dude. So that's like, 13 matches?
I guess.
Holy Christ.
We might get up to 15 by the end.
I think 15 is probably a safe assumption. Maybe the pre-show is going to be longer.
Yeah. As far as show stealers, even not necessarily in-ring, but like I'm sure they had big stunts planned, especially for the Shane match. You get a big spot.
Of course.
Undertaker, Roman, not really excited. Bray and Randy.
That match is contingent on Taker. I think that could be a sleeper. If the Undertaker has a really strong performance. Listen, Roman performs really well in these big matches, and you're going to have the drama of an Undertaker WrestleMania match, which people will be in the near fall. I think there's way more believability in an Undertaker loss this year than most.
Sure.
That you have that going for you. That one could surprise everyone, and I don't think it's even that much of a surprise that they could have a great match. I think it's hard when you go back and look at some disappointing Taker matches of the last couple of years, and let's look at the situations. Against Shane, let's be honest, it was Shane, and they were kind of restricted by that cell up until the last bump.
Yep.
The year before that, you had Bray working on a broken foot, and prior to that, Undertaker suffers a concussion in the first few minutes with Brock Lesnar, and before that, you had the Punk Classic.
But all of these things could happen again, or maybe to a different extent.
It's all possible. I'm just saying that to say that Taker's last 3 Mania matches have all been bad or underwhelming, there are some extenuating circumstances that may not be there. He has the opportunity, if both are healthy, to have a pretty good match at WrestleMania.
And of course, you have Neville and Aries, too, who could also be a show stealer.
Have a great one, too.
If given the time. We go to Chupacabra, who says, I think Miz and Marie should have cost Cena and Nikki the win tonight against Ellsworth and Carmella. The loss would not only add to the rivalry, but now Carm Ellsworth would have a major win to brag about going forward.
Why? That to me is my biggest... Why do we have to spread out stuff like that? Like WrestleMania, to me, especially WrestleMania season, it's about getting the people in the main matches as hot as possible. Carmella and Ellsworth mean nothing at WrestleMania. So why beat an act you are pushing in a super big match at WrestleMania for an undercard act to have some bragging rights?
Yeah, I thought it was also more important at this stage to establish the two of them as two people that could work together, and to kind of get that pop from the audience for them doing their tandem maneuvers, and to really just put the focus on the teams itself that are heading into the match. He goes on, as for Talking Smack, I've never been much of a Miz fan, but I'm loving every second of his promos on Cena and Nikki. In fact, this week may have even been better than last week since there was no Cena to make smug faces and scoff the entire time. Another week without the tag champions on SmackDown. Maybe the tag title will be up for another multi-team match in Orlando.
Sorry, he's saying the SmackDown tag titles?
Yeah.
I don't see a multi-person team. I see at most you're going to get a pre-show match with Alpha and the Usos, or they're just going to be put in the Battle Royal, which as we're going through the lineup here, I could very well see them thrown into the Battle Royal because there's not the time, possibly. Though that's a tag match I would like to see. I'm going to skip down here to Sean from Australia. Interesting to compare the two standout SmackDown performers since the draft, AJ Styles and The Miz. Styles has had amazing matches and his promos have improved to an elite level, yet his Mania opponent will be Shane McMahon, which is a huge letdown. Miz, too, has had an amazing run, the best promo on the show, and has improved matches wrestling-wise. From the level he was a year ago, and now to score a John Cena match at Mania is a credit to him, but does he deserve a more high-profile opponent than AJ Styles is getting? Just because Shane wrestled Taker in that god-awful match last year, why does it mean now a Shane match is held in higher esteem? What's annoying as well, we know that Shane will have a lot of offense too in the match, which makes it even more ludicrous.
It's true. We go to Jeremy, who asks, with the SmackDown Tag Team division going nowhere, who from NXT would be a good injection into it, or would you just revamp who's there? It's annoying to see guys who are talented in-ring but have bad gimmicks like Breeze. Do we forget he wrestled Liger in a good match? And Fandango being wasted, and even the Usos are kind of losing their direction as well.
I agree with you. I think there's, Tyler Breeze, I think, is really... You just compare, like, that was a really good performer, really good gimmick in NXT, very good wrestler, that he's been given no chance. Like, he hasn't even had the opportunity to fail, much less... I mean, he's just been given so little that it's unfortunate, and you kind of just get branded with that label. He's in a similar spot to, I feel like, a Drew Galloway was for years on the WWE roster, where, Galloway did get the big push at first, but, Breeze wasn't even given that.
So what do you think? Do you think it's time to bring some more teams up from NXT? Or do we rehab what we have?
I do feel that there's just a natural progression, that there's certain acts in NXT that they're going to move up to the roster. I think Dawson and Wilder are going to be on the main roster pretty soon. Nakamura's another one that's probably up there. Elias Sampson looks ready for the main roster after he just lost the loser leaves NXT match.
We're talking tag teams right now, and I feel like there are certain tag teams with a high stock, with a lot of hype in NXT that they will take seriously in the
I don't want to see the Authors of Pain moved up. I think they should have some time down there. I really see those two having a lot of potential. Like a year from now, they're going to be so much better than they are now. Yeah. I definitely think that's possible. So they should be down there. I think Gargano and Ciampa are going to stay down there for a while.
Why?
Just because I feel that...
Aren't they ready?
They're ready. Teams? You're right. I'm also looking at it from... We're listing off all this... are there the spots ready for all these guys?
There's nobody else over in the tag team division.
It's almost like you would like to see a bit of a swap where, like...
Yep. I think that'd be great.
Let Breeze and Fandango go down to NXT. Financially, maybe not the greatest for them, but career-wise, like, they could use a refresh and then put Ciampa and Gargano in their spot.
Has that really worked out, though? Even Cesaro did that.
It worked for Tyson Kidd.
That's true.
He was just...
To an extent. Did Tyson really get that over on his way back to the roster, though?
No, but really. NXT certainly gave them the idea to rehabilitate him, and then, he had his injury, which curbed everything.
I think that would help a lot of guys. I'm looking at the Shining Stars. I'm looking at most of the tag team division on Raw and SmackDown.
Dude, I would guarantee you that if the Shining Stars went down and did a takeover event with Ciampa and Gargano and got 20 minutes, people would be raving about that match. Raving, okay?
Maybe.
You wouldn't even need ecstasy. You would be raving just on the intoxication of that match quality.
Okay. Well, I do think...
But I'm with you. And go down as a new act. The Shining Stars, ditch the fucking brochure gimmick. I think it could help a lot of guys that, yes, it's perceived as a step back, but it could be 2 steps forward for your career to just get the reset down in NXT.
Yeah.
And refreshes your tag division. Let the mechanics take their spot on Raw. And it's because, God, that Raw tag division is so stagnant. Like, do you have any interest in a 3-way with those teams?
Nope.
Chris from Melbourne says, should I fear that guys like Austin Aries may be pigeonholed as being just cruiserweight guys and stuck on the island that is 205 Live? And do you think the WWE will ever hold a WrestleMania in Canada again?
You should be concerned, but I don't think you should be. Like, I don't think it's a bad thing. I mean, look at the reality is, like, a guy like Neville wouldn't be on WrestleMania this year if not for the cruiserweight division. And, you know, you can argue that Aries may have had a bigger debut without the cruiserweight division, or he could still be stuck in NXT. You know what I mean? Like, at this stage in Austin Aries' career, the guy's what, like in his late 30s? The guy was set to retire. So anything right now is sort of a bonus. And realistically, he might be undersized when you're going up against, you know, the Braun Strowmans and the Roman Reigns. At least undersized to the point where you might not be able to buy him as a legitimate heel, which he's, I think, the best at. However, he might be great in a tag team situation.
Yeah, you might view the cruiserweight division as a small pond, but it's been...
they get so much TV time.
Look, they get a lot of time. It's completely revitalized Neville. And, I mean, I'm going back to Tyler Breeze now just because he's on my brain. Imagine him in the Kendrick role. I think it would be way more effective with Tyler Breeze than Brian Kendrick, to be honest.
It's arguable. I think it's arguable. I mean, I don't know. Well, I mean, with the writing, with the booking, like the lessons gimmick, I don't know if it'll be that different.
Kendrick's promos do nothing for me, so that's where I'm starting.
I think he's a good promo. It's just I think the material has been kind of weak.
WrestleMania in Canada, totally possible. But you know, the thing is, especially this year, they've increased prices at WrestleMania because there's so fewer seats in the stadium, the former Citrus Bowl in Orlando, than they ran at AT&T Stadium last year. You also want a certain size stadium as well, and you know the Sky Dome is not the biggest thing in the world, and you're also dealing with. Granted, it's a lot of international travelers, but I mean, you're taking in Canadian dollars at that point and paying out in American.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the incentive isn't always there. I mean, they could always do it. I mean, 18 was at a year when the dollar wasn't great either. Mm-hmm. But it's certainly possible. Yeah,
Canadian dollars, which right now would be basically...
What are we at right now?
Like 1.3.
Yeah, it
sucks.
It's really bad.
It's brutal.
For those of you that don't have to go through that process.
A green tea from Starbucks in Vegas cost me $5 Canadian.
Wow.
Outrageous. We go to Trent from South Carolina, who asked, were you surprised there was no Bray Wyatt or Luke Harper on the show this week, given what happened last week?
I didn't mind it because I felt that it would have been too much crammed into one show. Tonight's focus was that Styles and Orton setting up the challenger, and Bray's response is next week to respond to this angle. Why have him on the show for just a quick segment to have him there?
And to me, like, he was so devastated last week on SmackDown. This was the equivalent of a major injury for him. So give him the week to kind of sell it and show that he was really hurt by it. He also asks, with WrestleMania being a crowd with a lot of smart fans attending, could you see The Miz and Maurice getting a babyface reaction from the crowd in Orlando?
See, I see that more you don't always really get that in your big WrestleMania stadium environment because, I mean, there's going to be positive Miz fans. I would see that closer to a Raw or SmackDown coming out of WrestleMania because they're doing both Raw and SmackDown at the Amway Center. But
I feel like you might get type of bizarre reaction, quote unquote, with AJ and Shane, but I feel like The Miz is such a great heel in this act that he's entertaining to watch, but I still feel that at the core, you want to hate the guy. And especially with the demographic that they're chasing, that being kind of women and children and a lot more casual fans, I feel like you'll get a lot of people sympathizing with Nikki and Cena.
All right, and final one here is Aditya from India. Rare occasion where Raw was better than SmackDown. It made no sense to have had Randy Orton and AJ Styles for free when Orton had a title shot, gave it up, then won it back 2 weeks later. Well, we went over that. Another multi-man match at Mania. Why can't they just don't feature the SmackDown Live women's division at Mania? I don't know what that means. I actually like the idea of Bray against Orton. I think it's been built well, and they've got 3 more weeks to add in the finishing touches. It's my pick for the main event of Mania, but I know they'll give it to Goldberg and Lesnar. Really liked him on Talking Smack, the way he exposed John Cena about stealing stuff from other people, and the Dolph Ziggler's X part was hilarious. All right. That is it. Thank you for all your feedback. A packed edition here of Review-A-Smackdown. Lots of stuff to discuss as we continue the build-up to WrestleMania coming up in a couple of weeks, which, of course, everyone was wrong here. The main event of WrestleMania is Sunday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern for our live Review-A-Wai podcast at the Barley and Vine Beer Garden, 2406 East Washington Street. You can go confirm your attendance at facebook.com/liveaudiowrestling. And of course, all of our shows are up at liveaudiowrestling.com. You can subscribe for free on iTunes and check out our archives because I worked diligently over the weekend to update all of this. lawradio.proboards.com. You have the archives of every single Review-A-Wai show. And I think that's it.
Yeah, one more thing. I didn't get a chance to upload the Pro Wrestling Crates opening for last week because I was away, but this week we will get that up, maybe even tonight, tomorrow. So check out youtube.com/liveaudiowrestling for John and myself opening, unboxing.
I can't wait. This was a fun one.
The February Pro Wrestling Crate.
And one more thing. Sunday night on the Law, 11 p.m. Eastern Time. I will be chatting with Kurt Angle on the show. We'll be chatting about his Hall of Fame induction, and his addiction issues. Both will be covered. And I'll be co-hosting the show with one Jason Agnew for the entire show Sunday night. So we'll be chatting about all of this week's TV, whatever new news comes out over the next couple of days, and much more. 11 Eastern, Sunday night. And Friday, final thing, is Review-A-Wai with the 24th anniversary of WrestleMania being reviewed. WrestleMania 25 from 2009 featuring the first Undertaker-Shawn Michaels match at WrestleMania. That's it. That's all I have to say.
Are you sure?
Yes.
All right.
We'll chat with you on Friday.
I'm sorry it didn't work out for you.
Let him go. Let him go. Let him go. Jiminy Christmas. Somebody get him out of here.